Today is Saturday, August 11th, 2018 at the time of this recording. Thank you all for tuning in to the channel. Whether you're watching this on early release through Patreon or through YouTube, thank you for taking the time to watch the video. What I have titled this video is, what is data throttling? I think what some people seem to misunderstand on some level is, they kind of confuse data throttling and deprioritization, and they are quite different, and they are both actually strategies for managing cellular networks, but they are a little bit different in their application and what they do. So I wanted to take the time to do a two-part video series where I cover the difference between data throttling and deprioritization. So this video is specifically on data throttling. So basically, data throttling is a network management tool or technique or a strategy that all service providers use. And what they're trying to do is they're trying to limit the bandwidth and the usage based on a per user basis. So whether somebody is using X amount of gigs per month, or if they're using most of their usage for video services or music services, the data management could be quite different from carrier to carrier. So whether you're with Verizon, Sprint, AT&T, or T-Mobile, the rules and the regulations and the guidelines are a little different. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you guys how Verizon kind of does their thing. So these are going to be in reference to Verizon's different stipulations, limits, and restrictions on their network. So I'm going to be using my Verizon SIM for testing in this video demo, and I'll give you guys the full rundown of the test. So basically, I have on this SIM the Beyond Unlimited plan. I get 22 gigs of high-speed data before I am deprioritized. That's actually not the purpose of this video, but I wanted to let you guys know. And currently I'm at 6 days left on my current billing cycle, and I've used about 13 gigs of data. So that's kind of where I'm at with my billing. Now, my data throttling comes into effect when I'm streaming video. Verizon sets the video resolution on this plan for 720p. So I should be able to stream video at a 720p HD resolution without any type of buffering or disruption of any kind. So, and in this experience, I would say it's about 100% of the time I can stream 720p no problem. 1080p I can actually stream sometimes, so it kind of works, but usually it's not the case. Usually it starts to buffer, and I kind of get this inconsistent playback. So let's take a look at what we're going to do with this testing. I think what we're going to do first is show you that I am on the Verizon network. So to let you guys know, I am using the Google Pixel 2 XL. It is running Android Pie. So if you guys want to see kind of the network I'm using, you could see in the tab right there, it says Verizon Wireless. You can see the signal strength is there. Okay, so I am on the Verizon Wireless network, and it is showing, you can see my Wi-Fi in the upper right-hand corner. I'm going to turn off and disable Wi-Fi. And you can see I'm now currently on LTE, so that's my network. What I'm going to do is I'm going to run a speed test for my LTE data. So I'll run just a regular speed test app, and then I'm going to run it on fast.com to show you guys the throttled speed for video streaming. So I'm going to first start with the regular speed test. So this is just for regular LTE data. If I was transferring files, if I was downloading a file, these would be the numbers you're getting. So I'm getting about 35, 33, 36 megs per second on the download, and getting about 3 to 4 megs per second, about 2.5 on the upload. So you guys can see the kind of speeds I'm getting there, and the ping is at 46 milliseconds. And that's very typical of what I see. Now, the 33 megs per second is a little bit lower. This is kind of considered a peak time, but 33 megs is very, very serviceable. I mean, usually it's around 45, 50 megs, so that's perfectly fine. I could do anything I need to do with that type of download speed. So that's my LTE data as I'm downloading and using my LTE. Now, if I go to fast.com, and you guys will see this here, what fast.com does is it'll show you how fast your video streaming would be, for example, like when you're using Netflix and so on. So that would be my capped data speed, my throttled data speed, which is being throttled by Verizon. So that is their network management tool that they use to help reduce, bandwidth usage, on a per user basis. So when I'm using any type of video streaming service, like Netflix or Hulu or, Sling or DirecTV Now, any of those services, I'm going to be capped at about 3.7 to 4 megabits per second. I'll run one more test to show you guys. And up in the upper right hand corner, you can see that it is still on LTE. So this is showing about 2 megs per second, 3, 4 megs per second. This is very consistent from what I see whenever I speed test fast.com. So you can see that the difference in speeds between regular data and video data is about 9 or 10 times difference. So my data speeds are much faster, which means technically I should be able to stream pretty much any resolution I want, but Verizon is using the strategy, this data throttling, to restrict how fast I can video stream, which is going to affect my ability to view high resolution video like full HD and quad HD. Now this device is a quad HD device, so I can stream at high resolution video quality as long as my connection speed is fast. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to show you guys my Wi-Fi speeds. Okay, so I'm going to come up here in the upper left hand corner. I'm going to turn on my Wi-Fi. You guys will see my network will connect. Now I have a couple of different connections. I've got a dual band router, so I've got 2. What I'm going to do is I'm going to connect to my fastest network. So I've got a 2.4 gigahertz and a 5 gigahertz network. I'm going to connect to the 5 gigahertz network to run the test, so you can see that it is connected there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to run a speed test connected to Wi-Fi on that network. Now I'm currently on a 300 megabits per second plan. My line, so if I connect the internet to a line, like say my Xbox or my computer, I'll get 300 megabits per second. But when once it goes through a router and it has to broadcast that wireless signal, the speeds do drop a bit. So I consistently see between 200 and 250 megabits per second on the download. Oh, my Xbox just turned on. And on upload, I usually get somewhere between 30 and 35 megabits per second. So a really fast home Wi-Fi network. What I'm going to do now is, as soon as the speed test is done, I'm going to go ahead and do the fast.com speed test while I'm connected to the Wi-Fi. So I'm going to go back to fast.com so we could take a look at what my video speeds would be through my home Wi-Fi. So you could see my video speeds are much better than when restricted on Verizon. So I'm getting about 51 megabits per second, as opposed to when I was on my LTE, I was getting 4 megabits per second. So I'll run another test. All right, so we peaked at about 100. It's now at 50. So with 50 to 100 megabits per second, I can stream much higher resolution than 720p. I could stream full HD, I could stream quad HD, 4K, 8K probably. Shouldn't have any issues with that. So now you've seen the difference between LTE and Wi-Fi in terms of what type of video speeds you get from running a home Wi-Fi network versus Verizon's LTE, and kind of like their data management system with that. So I've run the tests, and I now want to kind of show you guys how this is going to affect your viewing experience. I'm going to run YouTube. So I'm going to open the app. And what I'm going to do is, for the sake of the testing, I'm going to turn off my Wi-Fi. So you see I'm on the LTE. What I'm going to do is I'm going to set some parameters. Just before I get into the testing, some data and bandwidth numbers. To give you guys some context, a 720p video that's about 10 minutes long on YouTube uses about 220 megabits. So, and give or take, just depends kind of like on the bit rate, but that's pretty close. I would say that to stream the 720p video, and for it to be continuous and uninterrupted, you're going to need a speed of about 4 megabits per second. If you're going to stream a 1080p video of the same length, it's probably going to need 272 megabits. So that would need a speed of about 5 megabits per second. And for a quad HD video, 1440p, that's 10 minutes long, it uses about 650 megabits, which would mean that you would need a bandwidth speed of about 11 megabits per second. Now remember, I'm on my LTE now, so the video resolution is going to be restricted because Verizon is throttling my speed. So instead of seeing, the possible 30 or 40 megabits per second, they're capping me at about 4 megabits per second. So we're going to run this video at 720p. We're going to set that resolution, and we're going to see if we can get continuous playback. So you're going to go here, you can go up to the quality. I'm going to set it to 720p. We are on the LTE network, and actually I'm going to enable stats for nerds. And there's a couple things I want you to look at. You can see the device name is at the top with the system that it's running, and you can also see the viewport, which is going to show you the video resolution, and there's some information there in the video formatting. And actually the bandwidth section is going to periodically show how much bandwidth is being pulled from the network. So it'll say something like 3 or 4 megabits per second, so you can kind of see what is being used in terms of the network. So I'm going to go ahead and play the video, and we'll see what type of playback we get. All right, so you could see that the bandwidth is kind of fluctuating. It kind of stops, so the video stops, downloading. Then it kind of spikes a little bit. So you can see it goes from like 0 kbps to like 12 megabits per second down to 4. It's really, really inconsistent. It kind of does that. Now, this is on my LTE Verizon. So remember, they are throttling and managing my video playback. So you'll see that it's pretty low. You'll see it like, say, 3 megabits per second, 5. It'll stay within that range. Occasionally, it'll peak at like 10 or 15, but then the throttling kicks in and it boots it down to a much slower speed. But you could see the white status bar for the playback is uploading just fine. There aren't any issues there. 720p resolution video should have no issues streaming on Verizon's LTE network. So the 4 megabits per second that are required to stream the 720p video are pretty much there. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to run the same video, but I'm going to do things a little bit differently this time. So I'm going to run this back. I'm going to pause it. And actually what I think I'll do is I'll take a different video. Okay, I'm going to pause it. And I'm going to change the parameters. What I'm going to do is I'm going to make this, instead of 720p video, I'm going to make it a 1080p video. We're going to see if we can get that continuous playback that we got in the 720p. So I'm going to enable stats for nerds. And you can see the bandwidth requirement, and the video is consistently playing back right now. You can see the video format, it's set at 1080p. And you can see that the bandwidth is kind of going from like 0 to 3 to 4 megabits per second. It's the data management that Verizon is deploying. Once they see that you're using video data, you're streaming video, they manage and throttle your speeds. Now this is 1080p. So I showed you guys, and it is working, but in my experience, sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. And what Verizon says is, we'll allow you to stream at 720p, no problem. There won't be any interruptions. It'll be smooth playback. But basically at 1080p, you're going to get inconsistent results. It may or may not be able to stream continuously, and it might buffer. So that's kind of what we're expecting to see. But it is streaming pretty well right now at 1080p, which is cool. I like that. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and pause the video. I'm going to change the video resolution, we're going to do this next video actually. I don't know, maybe we'll do this go beyond one. All right, I'm going to set this one, but I'm going to change the parameters. I'm going to set this one, instead of 720p or 1080p, I'm going to set it to the max resolution of my device, which is 1440p or Quad HD. And we're going to see if it's still able to play it. We don't expect it to, obviously, but just to show you for the purposes of the video, we'll see if we get playback. So it is at 1440p. We're going to enable stats for nerds. We're going to see what we get. So you can see the status bar, or the download bar, that's giving you the progress of streaming the video. The gray part, it's trying to advance and preload so you can obviously watch it uninterrupted. But I am being throttled. You can clearly see that the red playback bar is going faster than the download of the gray bar. So what we're going to see pretty soon is we're going to see that the video is just going to pause and buffer and stop and have interrupted playback. And you can see there's the buffering. So we've got this video resolution set at 1440. Because of Verizon's data throttling algorithm, they're managing my network usage and they're preventing me from view anything above 720p with continuous playback. Now sometimes 1080p works, but that's not always the case, and obviously 1440 cannot be achieved with 4 megabits per second of download bandwidth. So unfortunately, like Quad HD is going to require something of about 10 or 11 megabits per second, so it's not going to work on my LTE. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to pause the video and I'm going to switch my network from the LTE from Verizon to my home Wi-Fi. Again, my home Wi-Fi is very, very fast. I typically see speeds above 200 megabits per second. That's way more than enough to be able to stream a Quad HD video. So you can see I connected to my 5G home network. I'm going to go ahead and try to stream the video. So we'll enable Stats for Nerds. You can see it's at 1440 and it's downloading just fine. And you can see the bandwidth at 261 megabits per second, 50 megabits per second. You'll see it peak and surge. And it's plenty of bandwidth to do this type of a video resolution playback. So that's pretty much what Verizon is doing with their data throttling. Whether you have Sprint, whether you have Verizon, whether you have T-Mobile or AT&T, all networks deploy some form of throttling as, you know, basically just it's their data management tool. It's a strategy, it's a technique that they use to optimize people's, usage on their network so that, the network doesn't become congested and people's usage is not negatively impacted. So this is just, the first part of a video series that I wanted to do. So this kind of concludes the data throttling video. The next video I'm going to do in this series is going to be on deprioritization. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the heck out of my data for the next few days so I can get from the 13 gig mark. I have to get to my 22 gigs because after 22 gigs, Verizon is going to deprioritize me at times where the network is bogged down in my area. So what I want to do is I want to show you guys what deprioritization looks like and how it's different from data throttling. So thank you all for watching. I hope you found this video informative. If you did, give it a thumbs up. Also, a share is greatly appreciated. Also, check me out on Patreon, sneedmobiletech there, link in the description below. If you appreciate what we're doing with the channel, link in the description for a PayPal donation. All considerations are appreciated. Thank you again for watching the video. We'll see you guys on the next one. This is Sneed from Sneed Mobile Tech. Peace.